you look at the current state of the warehouse, a perfect storm is taking place. On the one hand, you're seeing a very volatile market where consumer habits are changing and you're seeing a lot more e-commerce and last mile deliveries taking place. At the same time, we're seeing growing supply chain complexity. I think all of you must be experiencing product delays, product shortages, which are becoming increasingly prevalent in the market. At the same time, you're seeing rapidly increasing costs, particularly of fuel. Finally, you're also seeing staff shortages. If you look at warehouse, the traditional ages of the workers there are getting higher and higher, and many are retiring. So many companies are facing the challenge of recruiting staff, retaining them, and then while they're working is looking after their safety and well-being. So I think digital technology is going to take an increasingly important role in transforming warehouse operations to make them much more efficient, to make them much more agile, and also to improve working conditions. So whether you're looking at trying to improve your asset utilization and your productivity, or you're looking to enhance your forecasting and responsiveness, or to improve your conditions of your training or preventing accidents, digital is going to play an increasingly important role in your operations. What we see digital enabling is a transition from currently very reactive processes through to proactive ones. What I mean now, if you look, for example, at safety or equipment maintenance, a lot of these are still paper-based processes. So you have to spend a lot of time when there's an accident or when a machine goes down, you have to spend a lot of time searching historical information. With digital, the first thing you can do is once to capture the information in a much more discoverable format, and then you can use that to move to new models such as predictive maintenance, dynamic forecasting, and also preventing accidents. So I think whether or not where you are on the road right now is the next 5 years, you're going to be looking at these questions. First of all, sensors. What kind of sensors are you going to add to your operation so you know what's happening to the equipment, to the environment around it? Second, you're going to be looking at AI. Now, we're involved in forklifts, so these are probably the AI technology I'll be talking about. Things like pedestrian detection and driver fatigue detection and driver distraction detection. But I think as you add more and more cameras to your operations, AI is going to play an increasingly important role. And then third, how do you take all this information, tie it all together? You do that in the cloud. And so the cloud is going to play a very, very critical role in the future. Capturing this data, making sense of this data, so then you can start making much better decisions about, for example, how to allocate resources. Now, via, we see the forklift as the digital transformation engine for warehouse operations. One of the reasons for that is quite simple. The most high value asset that you have in a warehouse facility. That means you need to make sure the machine is running all the time. You need to minimize the downtime from accidents, and you also need to optimize maintenance procedures as well, again, to keep it running. It's also the highest safety risk. Now, there are a lot of different numbers about the forklift statistics, but you can see very clearly in the US or Europe is that pedestrian accidents, for example, are a serious problem. Employee injuries are a serious issue that needs to be addressed. Not just because of the human cost, but also because of the cost they add to insurance, legal potentially, and then to inventory damage and operational disruptions. Also, with high staff turnover taking place, forklift operators, there's actually quite a large shortage of them, as I'm sure you're all very well aware. So one question you need to look at is how do you use digital technology to make the work and conditions for forklift drivers much easier and much more comfortable and safer. So just to look at some of the statistics, these are the numbers that we've drawn from the US, is that currently in the US there are 110,000 forklift accidents a year. Those are the ones that are reported, and I think probably when you start looking at ones that are not reported, that number is much larger. Second is that during the lifetime of a single forklift, there's probably a 90% probability that it will be involved in an accident of some kind while it's in use. 20% of workplace deaths in the US are forklift related, so there's potentially fatal consequences. And Pedestrian collisions are a particularly serious problem. Is that in the US, 80% of forklift accidents involve a pedestrian, somebody walking around nearby a vehicle. Perhaps they're not looking, perhaps they're not paying attention, perhaps the driver not paying attention. But these accidents can be prevented. So there's a very heavy financial cost and human cost. If we look at the dollars, it's estimated in the US the cost per accident, once you add in the disruptions, once you add in the healthcare, medical costs, etc., $188,000. That's a huge hit to the bottom line. And this adds also to your operational and insurance costs, freight damage, inventory loss, and all these kind of issues. So forklift, I think, is a very, very good place to start for initiating a digital transformation initiative for these reasons.